6 days out. I am very excited for next weekend. So today's Sunday, and today in the gym, don't have a huge amount to do. I've got my opener on squat to do, something like a last warm up on bench and last warm up on deadlift. So this final week of prep has went actually really well. So I hit 290 on deadlift. So I'll try it up here. It moved really well. The talc, of course, does help. Bench has just been not the best this prep. Again, I hit 160 for a second time this week, and it pretty much moved the exact same as the previous week. So I'm going to open now with this like taper, because I'm only training 2 days this week. So I'm training today, and then I have actually 3 times. I've got today, Tuesday, and then Thursday, but they're very, very brief sessions, just simply coming in, move the body, do some very, very light squatting on Thursday. I do find that ties me over quite well to then competing like 2-3 days later. So today going to be working up to like 240 on squats, about 140 on bench, and then 250 on deadlift. But yeah, look, the body's feeling good. I am interested to see how today goes, to be honest, because usually it's this week. It's the week after the last heavy and the week before the competition where things historically just feel crap. So I don't really have like major expectations for how the weight is going to move today, but once it moves, that's the main thing. So just got to the gym. It is 20 past 1. So gotta get started because I haven't eaten in like 3 hours. Emma has some people over visiting for the week, and as a result we have just been getting to the gym a little bit later because they arrived a little bit later than anticipated. So my kind of meal time is a little bit messed up, but thank God I'm not doing any volume really today, just working up to the singles, have a very, very small amount of back down work, and then that's pretty much that. So I'm gonna get myself into my little suit, get dressed, and then it's go time. Alright, so the plan on squats today, just go through my last warm up, just for a single. So go through the warm-ups I typically will in training, the exact same thing I'm going to do in competition today. And I think that's kind of what you want to go into competition today with. It's having your warm-ups matched out with something familiar that you would do in training. So I always start a couple of sets of 20, 70, 120, 170, 220, and then going to do 240. Exact same thing I'm going to do next weekend. Just get myself used to the layout and being intentional with my bracing and with my speed on every single of those warm-ups. So even that 70 there, I'm trying to move it like it's the 240. So the plan for competition is going to be open up around 242. So this is going to be around an opener that worked up to. So plan competition is to open up around 242, second 255, and for third we're potentially going to go either 265 or 267. The third attempt is always going to be loaded based off how the second attempt moves. The first one is always just to get a number on the board, which is why it's going to be quite light. So 265 or 267, they'd be massive comp PBs. I'll be happy with 265, just like get the new plate on the bar, right? The nice big blue plate, that'd be quite nice. But we'll see what's there, because like, look, if you asked me last weekend when I did 260, could I do 267? I would have said, load it up. So, you know, I'm confident in my ability. It's just a case of ensuring that I am fresh enough leading into next week. But at the end of the day, you don't want to be, at the end of the day, you don't need to be like extremely fresh coming into competition today, right? Because you still want to have some degree of the skill there, which is going to be maintained by this taper week and still getting some practice in with the likes of my squat, my bench. Deadlift, I find the skill in that like degrades very, very slowly. So that's the type of one where I could do my last deadlift today and be completely fine until next Saturday. But with squats and bench, I feel like I need more frequent exposures. Squat is probably the lift that has improved the most since I started powerlifting. So if we think about my very, very first competition, I squat 215, and in this competition now, I'm looking to potentially squat 260 or more. So that's what, 45 kilos, 45 kilos added in the last 5 years, which, you know, I'm pretty damn happy with that, considering, you know, when I did enter powerlifting, I was already training a number of years, right? So, and I mean, even before I did my first powerlifting competition, I think my max was 200. So realistically, I've had about 60 kilos in the last 5 years, which is pretty epic. Then if you compare that to my deadlift, before I started powerlifting, I think my max is 260, so 290 now, so that's 30 kilos. And before I started powerlifting, my bench was 140, and now it's 165. So that has had a slow rate of gain. But I think like one of the biggest things that's contributed to like my squat going up over time, well, number one, it's been gaining weight. So when I started powerlifting, I was like about 85 kilos. My first competition, I weighed in 83.9. This competition, I'm going to come in at about 98 kilos. I've spent the majority of those last 5 years in a surplus. If you discount my year that I did my bodybuilding prep, when I lost over like almost 20 kilos, and I got down to 76 kilos. So the biggest thing has been adding more weight, but then actually cycling through different intensities. So, you know, having periods where my reps have been quite high, down to periods where I've been quite low, and I've actually been going through the peaking process. I do find that the exposure to more of those heavy lows, like those like 2 to 4 repetition range, has really built my squat, because that's an area where I was pretty much like avoiding when I was just training by myself before powerlifting, purely because I was kind of training for like a hypertrophy, like I was training for hypertrophy, trying to train for muscle gain, and then I was just a little bit afraid to go any heavier than a set of 5, like, to be completely honest. But if you want to be squatting like big weights, I do think it's quite important for you to be going through phases where you're actually kind of getting up towards those intensities of like 85% plus. And over time, then the weight you lift for a set of 5 or a set of 8 like will increase dramatically. Before I started powerlifting, God, I think my best set of 8 ever, might have been about 160 or 170. Whereas like this year I've done 220 for 8. So like that's just goes to show like how getting generally stronger, like especially at that like higher percentage of winner max, for me at least, can improve your strength at rep work. And get stronger rep work, you're gonna have more opportunity there to increase mechanical tension and get bigger. So from this one, the belt goes on. I usually throw the belt on about 2 to 3 warm-ups away from the top height I'm getting to. Number one, to just get used to bracing with it. But number two, to help the belt expand, because the leather does start to expand after you've braced into it a few times. That's correct. It's going to get a little bit looser now as I brace into it a little bit harder. And now from this one as well, I am just going to go for a single, brace hard, move the bar as fast as I can, nail depth. One thing that I've kind of noticed when I've been using this rack relative to when I use competition racks, and even the racks upstairs, to be honest, and this could just be on my head, but if you notice this difference, let me know in the comments, right? The J hooks on this rack are like more like kind of grippy V's, whereas when you're using a competition rack or even the racks upstairs, they have like roller cups, so the bar kind of slides across easier. Now, I find it infinitely easier to get wedged and set up underneath the bar when using roller cups. This one I find a lot more difficult to get as tight as possible. Maybe it's just in my head. Come on. No bother. Very easy stuff. Get yourself nice and tight. Tight like a tiger. Oh, almost forgot to load this side. That would have been a bad thing to happen. That's why you should always check the bar. Okay. All right, so that moves exactly as I expected it to for 1 week out. Again, as I said, 1 week out, you feel the residual fatigue from the previous week, but you're just not getting yourself as hyped up as you would for like your top single when you're hitting your heaviest lift, right? You're hitting it a little bit more reserved, the same way you will hit your opener in competition, because obviously in competition, like you wanna preserve your hype throughout the day, because there's only so much you can tolerate getting up to 10 out of 10 for hype. And for your opener, should be something that you can hit with low hype. Should be something that you can hit pretty much any single day that you walk into the gym. Because every time you reach that like 10 out of 10 hype, that adds some fatigue, you know? Just try to save that for your third. So, moves as expected. Had the bar set up a little bit weird in my back. Again, as I mentioned, just with these hooks here, I find it very difficult to get the bar like as kind of tight and in the nicest spot possible relative to when I'm using the more competition-based racks. Competition-based racks, I'm just able to find the sweet spot, and it just feels weightless when I unrack it, which is exactly what you want. The lighter it feels in a walkout, the more confident you're going to be that you can move it nice and fast. But anyway, I only have one more double here. Just have 2 doubles, nice and light. I can definitely feel the fatigue in my chest and all across like my pec tendons. It's kind of hard to explain like the kind of like how fatigue masks your strength so much, or like what you feel like you should be doing. Because even like today, right, I moved that 240 okay, but internally it felt a little bit off. Even there at 110, that feeling a little bit kind of heavy, even though you know you're stronger, right? And this is one of the things when it does come to accumulating volume, accumulating intensity across the training block, is that you can be building the strength, you can be building the adaptations, but every time you train, that comes alongside a little bit of fatigue. That fatigue over time will start to mask the fitness, right? So while you're getting stronger through the training block, you're getting to this point where both fitness is quite high, so the strength adaptations, muscular adaptations, nervous system adaptations, they're going up, okay? But alongside that, fatigue is creeping up too. When fatigue is there, it does decrease force production and can increase your RPE. So that's why towards the end of the peak, while you objectively are probably your strongest, you don't feel it because the fatigue is masking your fitness. And this is where the taper comes into play. So this week now, with a big reduction in training stress, I should feel fresh and ready to go and prepared and peaked on competition day. So if you are reaching this point within your training, you know, every couple of weeks, if you're training for strength, you're probably going to run into this point maybe every 4 to 8 weeks, depending on how long your training block is. If you never get to this point, you could be leaving gains on the table. And it's one thing I see with, You know, maybe some of my clients who maybe they're struggling a little bit when it does come to their strength gains or to their muscular gains is like when they never feel like they need a deload. If you never feel like you need to pull back, you're probably not pushing hard enough, right? Because that is your kind of sign that, okay, you've gotten to a point where you've accumulated a lot of fatigue, but that's only coming as a result of you pushing the limits of what you can handle and what you can kind of recover from. And so when you're kind of running to that place and kind of pushing that place, when you start to see the adaptations take place, where you start to see the muscular adaptations take place, start to see the strength adaptations take place. So if you're never getting to the point where you need to pull back and you take a deload, you know, never get that feeling of like fatigue and like, you know, just going to the gym and the weights that you are usually able to smash are not moving as well, maybe you need to start training harder. It's also one of the reasons why I don't like these racks. It's the J hooks are so easy to hit off. I definitely do feel like it's affecting my bar pat a little bit because I'm quite conscious of it. I feel like I'm pressing up straight versus pressing back. Would it be outrageous to buy my own roller cups for this rack? I don't know. I was thinking about it, but yeah, something to think about, that's for sure, because these give me a migraine. All right, last exercise. Better sticking to those thighs. Oh my God, I should have brought the talc. Literally 70, and I could just feel that this is gonna be a bit. Yeah. Oh. One of the best changes I've made to my deadlift in recent times has actually been hinging to the bar. The deadlift is a hinge at the end of the day, it's not a squat. It's not a leg press off the floor, it is a hinge. And for me, I was consistently mistiming the slack pull, and I was consistently not loading my hips. So actually just starting the movement off by actually feeling where I am mid-foot, pressing down through the big toe on the inside of my feet, and then from there actually kind of setting my hips back and just like going back as far as I can until I reach that end point of hip flexion, and then let my hands reach the bar and tugging up. That has made everything feel so much smoother. So I'm going to show you here. So set myself up to the bar over the mid-foot. From here, you see a rock on my feet, trying to feel where I feel most balanced, pressing down through my big toe and the inside of my foot. From here, exhale, brace, find that position where everything feels nice and rigid, and send my hips back. Hands can grip the bar here, tug up. You see there, as soon as I gripped onto the bar, I ripped up. That's essentially to get all that tension out of the bar. Because it's so light at the moment, the bar is pretty much levitating off the floor as soon as I set my hands into position. So again, walk up to the bar over the mid-foot, feel where I'm balanced, hinge down, arms nice and long, get the bar into the palm, and now tug up, shins forward. one more single to do, and then no back offs on the deadlift. I find when it does come to the kind of peak week, or whatever you might call it, taper week, just doing a single in deadlifts is sufficient for me, especially since I literally only deadlifted 2 days ago on Friday for a couple of triples. So 250 here, definitely getting stuck in the quads. I don't even have big quads, it's a sticky day. So we'll get this done, and then it's home time. So yeah, look, I'm feeling quite good for next weekend. Bench, the plan for it is open at around 150, kind of what I just did there. Looking at maybe 160 as a second, and then whenever it's there for the third, to be honest. I've kind of made peace with the fact that bench is just not going to go up this competition, and that's okay. Look, you can't hit a PB every single competition, and like obviously the day hasn't happened yet, but I'm on track to PB my squat, PB my deadlift, and to PB all three on the same day. Like that's obviously a fucking like the best case scenario, right? I'd be happy enough going 9 for 9, getting the total PB, and you know, being able to walk away being like, yeah, I kind of know what I need to work on now, and also potentially have a little bit more left in the tank, right? Like, as much as I would like to hit like my top end numbers here in this competition, it's always nice to walk away from a competition knowing you have a little bit more. So it'd be interesting to see like how I go through this week. We're gonna have an idea as to what we need to do when it does come to improving my bench press, like, or what we can potentially try. Like this peak, I have essentially had 4 days of benching, but only 1 day was competition bench. And with that, I just felt like out of practice when I was getting to my main bench day, right? I was doing close grips, doing pin press, I was doing banded bench press, and I just feel like I could do a little bit more specificity within the plan. And historically, when my benches felt the best, I have had a little bit more specificity, and even certain variations, I find my bench press responds the best with, right? So I find that when I have long pause working, when I've got tempo work, my bench press technique feels more on point. I feel a lot stronger off the chest. I feel as if my bar pattern on the way down is a lot more stable. And I do think they are things that I could probably look at doing with across these next couple of months as I come into Abs Series 21. So that's going to be my next competition, and that's going to be my last powerlifting competition for a long, long time. So I'm really, really hoping at that competition I can get close to the 170, 175 mark. Like, it is a big stretch, but I'm willing to put on the body weight. I'm willing to put on like a couple of kilos or so to help with the bench progression. Now, putting on the kilos hasn't really kind of helped me the last few months, which is kind of funny enough because I have been at this weight before, so I'm 98 kilos at the moment, and my bench has felt way, way better. But now this is probably the crappiest my bench has felt in a long time. So yeah, look, it's just something for me to work on, and ultimately at the end of the day, I can't really kind of do anything right now about it. I just need to make sure that this weekend at competition, just make the best decisions possible when it does come to what weight to put on the bar, and kind of see what's there. I could end up surprising myself, and that's the thing, right? If I end up dropping a decent amount of fatigue this week, everything that's built up from doing all those kind of all that bench volume, all that tricep volume across the last while, I could end up with something nice. But no, I'm kind of at peace if it doesn't happen. But anyway, I'm going to get into this final single, and then it's time to go home. Come on. And that is all she wrote for today's session, and that's all she wrote for this prep, really. Like, I have 2 more sessions to do, but they're going to be very light sessions, which I'm not going to record. So the plan for deadlift is 250 as the last warm-up. That there kind of moves the way I was kind of expecting it to move, given the fact it's quite late in the day, haven't eaten in a while, and you know, I'm a week out, so you know, I've got fatigue that I need to drop across this week. Hit that as the last warm-up, 275 or 270 for an opener. Then we have 285 to 290 for a second, and then 300 for a third. And man, I'm excited to give 300 a crack again. Yeah, the last time I missed it at the top, which is really, really frustrating, but I actually find that my technique is way, way more stable on a stiff bar, and I feel like I lift better on a stiff bar. And it's also just going to be, you know, it's going to be nice to actually put it on like probably the hardest variation, right? Well, then again, it's easier for me than the deadlift bar, so it's actually not technically the harder option to deadlift 300 on. But Yeah, like it's kind of hard to believe that I have that as the goal. Like, geez, when I started powerlifting, I didn't think I'd ever be able to deadlift 300 kilos. Like 275, even 260, they were kind of goals that I had when I kind of got into it. Well, 275, I came into it with 260. I never thought I'd be having the option to actually kind of load up towards 300. So yeah, look, goes to show what happens when you just continue putting the work in over an extended period of time. So yeah, thank you very much for following along this series. I'm not going to record the session this week, so the next video that you see is going to be comp day, comp weekend, and man, I'm very excited to get back on the RSPF platform once again. If you did enjoy the series, if you did enjoy the video, do leave me leave me a like on the video. It does help the page grow. Subscribe, of course, that does also help the page grow for sure. And yeah, leave me a comment, wish me luck, whatever, and we'll catch you in the next one.